Welcome to Teen Up, a podcast that digs deeper into the thoughts of teenagers' minds about the wonders of the world.
If you're new here, I am your host, Isabella.
And I'm Glenn. If you're not, welcome back.
Here's a quick disclaimer. If we made any mistakes, please email us and tell us. Thank you. Hello, welcome to Teen Up.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Thank you for joining us. So today we have Ness from the Let's Talk Shit podcast. Why don't you introduce yourself and your podcast?
I'd love to. So I'm Ness. My full name's Vanessa, but I don't like going by Vanessa. It's very hard to say to people. So Ness it is. And I started the podcast in our second lockdown in Australia because we just kept getting in and out of social situations and I couldn't talk to anybody and everyone was working from home. So for me, it was all I'm staring at my computer and I'm talking to my computer for my day job. So to keep that conversation going, even within myself, so I knew that I was still connecting to people, I jumped on the mic and started talking to myself, I guess, and brought that conversation to other people. And that's been really great. Actually, I've met so many people from around the world. I mean, you guys are in Taiwan and that's insane to me. I made a few friends in America and, there's heaps of people in Australia. And podcasting is just really a great way to connect with different types of people. So I haven't been able to commit to it as of late because I just changed jobs, but this is sort of what came about. And now that I have settled, I guess, a little bit more, it's great to be able to continue that and build more connections with people because people are very interesting.
I agree.
So why did you start your podcast? You kind of talked about it because you want to talk to someone in the pandemic, but why exactly do you start your podcast?
I think it was a lot of it came about from really weird questions and really random thoughts. And again, not being able to actually bring them out with people. And I'm not a great communicator when it comes to calling people and texting them. I'm much more of an in-person type of friend. So when it did come to these nagging little thoughts and just random bits and pieces, it was much easier to have an open dialogue with someone as opposed to, typing it down and then, trying to relay your thoughts from what you would say to somebody versus what you would write to someone. It seemed really different and it was really polarizing to me. Actually having a fluid conversation, even if it was with myself, it helped with my stream of consciousness. And I think it's also helped me be able to communicate better with others now that we're out of lockdown. So this is still a good tool for me to be able to talk to people. And I guess so that my thought and my thought process wasn't constantly I think that was the one thing I really wanted to get out of doing the podcast for myself was making sure that, I actually had a good stream of conscious and that I could have a full conversation with people without really having to halter it and curate it. So removing the word from my vocabulary was really important to me from doing this.
I like that. I think it's really great that you started a podcast, talking to other people. And I think that talking to other people in person is so much better than just texting. So moving on to this next question. What do you think your influences are so far?
My influences. I was very much influenced by a lot of musicians growing up. I'd say that was probably, those were the types of people that influenced me the most. When I was about 14, I got into the band scene. So I, 21 Pilots, Bastille, Paramore, got all back into that really grungy type of music. And the lyrics behind all of that was a lot of struggle street, that inner turmoil that you feel. So that was really good to connect with that at that age where, everything is the end of the world when you're 14. And then as the bands have sort of grown up, you sort of see yourself in different aspects of their life. And, it's been a solid 10 years since I've followed half of these bands and you really get to see how they've evolved and then how you can sort of slot yourself into all of that. So I think that's influenced the way that I think and the way that I connect to other people. And Halsey as well. I feel like she was so influential in my life when I was a teenager. And that really helped me grow into who I was and who I guess I've trying to become. I'm also super obsessed with Taylor Tomlinson. She's a comedian on Netflix. And she's so damn like, she's like the white epitome of, I wish I had those white girl problems. So I feel like she's very influential in that sense. She's just got such a dry sense of humor when it comes to those polarizing stereotypes of being like a generic person, but also having like all the nuances of her trauma and like what she's gone through in this being a person. Yeah. And I think, a lot of it had to do with musicians though, as I was growing up. So and that's still carried through as I've grown up.
I think music has been a influence, or at least like a very important part of a lot of people's life for sure. So the next question is, what is your favorite thing about making a podcast?
Ooh, I like hearing it back, actually. You know, that first dry run when you're talking and everything just sort of like blah. It's just word vomit. And I love hearing it back and hearing how I got from one point to another. And just everything seems to connect in some fluid way. And it seemed really like natural. But yeah, when you hear it back, you're like, oh my God, how did we get from, one point to the next in the space of 20 minutes? I think that's so fun. And then being able to like go, I don't even think I can cut this up to be anything, different, because that's just the conversation. And that's as natural as it can be. So, hearing it back is super fun.
Yeah, I totally agree. Oh, so you like having more like natural conversations on your podcast instead of like really structured ones, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a like part-time copywriter, so I like writing structured interviews on paper with like a question answer base. But yeah, I think there's room for both of those types of conversations, especially depending on like the topic as well, because some things, you can create an answer out of nothing, or just, have the cue of a question. But on the other hand, the natural flow of conversation also brings out different types of opinions and different types of thoughts. So again, yeah, it all depends on, I guess, the type of conversation you're having. But I love interviewing people for my previous roles, and I think getting it from a question, you got the not the right type of answer, but you got the answer that you were sort of looking for, because that was sort of the purpose of it. So I think sometimes when I am doing those like real free flowing conversations with people, it's just because it's a broader topic or it's something that we're exploring a lot more and in depth, and there's no structure behind that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Moving on to this next question. What are some difficulties you have gone through while doing the podcast?
I'm not very techie. I think computers hate me, and most technology appliances hate me. I've tried mics. Some of them have been fantastic. Some of them have been absolutely terrible. I'm in a really echoey space, so I really had to learn where like my buffer sounds were. So I've now like I either go in my room or I go in like a little cupboard, depending on like how my voice sounds, because sometimes that affects it, of all things. But yeah, tech was really hard. Actually trying to record something. I mean, you guys look like so professional, and I'm really, like just sitting in my room. But yeah, it's really hard to pick up on those types of skills. I mean, it all comes with practice, but especially in the beginning, it's like I thought this would be so much easier, because it just looks really simple. But it is the fact that a lot of people are just so talented when it comes to audio. I think it's a bit different than other types of media. So it seems so super weird.
Yeah, that's true. I can't deal with all the tech stuff either. Glenn has to be the one who does all these things.
Yeah, you're a techie guy.
So you do all the editing by yourself?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So fun. Sometimes it's like really good. Like there's not a lot of editing to do. And there are some episodes where I'm just like, it could probably take me a week to edit it, because I just can't sit and listen to myself over and over and over and over again. So yeah, it's a really time consuming process sometimes.
And you have to do all the work yourself, including like the promotions and uploading and everything.
Yeah, I actually found it really easy. I have my distributors, Podbean. So I find that platform really easy, and it took a lot of research to find that one. the one that worked for me, I guess. And yeah, Podbean was really good for that type of one man show.
So we've talked a lot about your podcast at this point. Tell us about you. What do you do? What's your interest, or basically anything about you?
Okay, me. So I started out like in my career, I guess, in journalism, and then left very early on because I was so bad at talking to people. I really wanted to be a journalist because I really wanted to write these like great stories or get inspired by other people. But for the life of me, when I got out of high school, I couldn't talk to nobody. I was so like, I don't even know I don't know what to say. I needed to know these people so well before I could have like a conversation. So if it was strangers, it was like a whole other world for me. And even my friends, I wasn't really good at talking to them. I don't think. So I dropped out and worked, retail for a while and then went back in and did marketing and advertising. So I'm a lot in that promotional space anyway. But I've changed my jobs, gosh, a few times now. I think this is my third position in 3 years that I've moved into recently. I'm not good at like being in a hierarchy. I'm that real like cliche of the mid-20s are like, yeah, I don't really want to listen to you. I'm not into it. You guys, you can be doing your dinosaur way, but I'm not about it. Let's change it. I've got a lot of respect for people who are trying new things, and I think that's also been really evident in like a work setting. And I have the energy now for my life to be all about like my work and as a moving forward and all of that. So while I do have the energy, I do want to stick to like really making it about, growing and being able to work with different types of people. I currently work for Lifeline Australia. I'm not sure if you've heard of them. They're like it's a charity, like a mental health crisis hotline. And yeah, I mean, I've been there 2 months and I've like worked in so many different industries now that it's great to see the difference between lots of people and like management styles. But I'm an avid traveler, so I think I'm okay with changing so often as well, because I don't really want to put roots down and like be someone who stays in the one place for 30 years and like be okay with it. I think I'm much more now as I've grown up. I'm a lot more, I feel like I'm a lot more flexible, and I want to be more flexible, I guess. I want to have less structure to my life and bring it more into like what I'm doing. So yeah, I think that's something about me that I've really pushed and tried to explore a lot more. And I'm obsessed with books and music, if you couldn't tell by my influences. So I was such an avid band person that I was in a band for a while. And then, the pandemic. Books. My favorite book to date is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. And I read that when I was so young, and that probably got me into a lot more of that fiction. The beauty of that book is that it has that like one narrator, and I've always really loved those types of novels. I don't like a lot of people's opinions all overflowing in one. I really want to like explore one person. So I've like been obsessed with like autobiographies and like real deep dives into people. So I mean that's everywhere. That's with what I watch, with what I read, with what I listen to. And I think that's why podcasts as well were such a great fit, because you learn so much about people and having those one-on-one conversations. And yeah, I'm like super not pop culture like attuned, so I learn all of that like in my 30 minutes a day where I'm on my phone. But yeah, I like learning more about people. So honestly, my interests are so like bland, but also like three-dimensional, because there's so much in little nuances of everything. But yeah, I'm obsessed with books. I would kill to like just be able to take a week off work just to sit and read, but I don't have the brain capacity to do that, or the savings. But we'll get there one day.
I actually think it's very interesting that you brought up you started out in journalism, because as of now, would you say like anything has changed, or would you want to get back to it? Because you didn't do it because you were afraid of talking to people. And I feel like through your podcast you might have changed that. So would you consider like going back
Yeah.
into it?
I'm not sure if I would consider going back into it full time. I was very disappointed as I got older that I didn't stick with it. It was sort of one of those moments where you're like, ah shit. Like I don't know, did I do the right thing? I think I didn't feel not mature enough. I didn't feel like I'd done enough to be able to commit to a career path like that, or commit to some, like, it for me it felt like a service, and if I wasn't prepared enough for it, it wouldn't be worth it. Like, I wouldn't be putting in, no one would be getting out enough of what I was trying to put in. And yeah, it was probably all about like timing in my life. I mean, I wish I had what I had now when I was 18, in that like mindset. And I think maybe my brain was actually even a bit too far ahead when it was thinking. Like, my body hadn't caught up to what my head was at, and being able to make sure that those two things were side by side was super important, because that's how I was able to be able to talk to people. That's how I was able to move forward with my life. So it's really upsetting that, you know, we're forced out of high school to like really pick something really quickly and move forward with it. And by the time you're like 23 now, you're a full like career person. But it's at this time now. Like, how old are you guys?
Or 18.
You're 18. See, like, I don't know how you guys, I hate that there's so much pressure and being able to like, you have one path, like pick it now, because I would have stayed with that path. But if I had a lot more time to, I guess, explore different, I don't know, like I needed to travel. I needed to, you know, through a really bad breakup, and, you know, have a lot of, I needed all of that to be able to be here. And now that I'm here, I think I could have become the journalist that I wanted to be. So I think it's all about timing, and it's super weird to have like an 18-year-old decide the rest of their life now. So I mean, I would like to go back into it, but like going back into school is such a full commitment, and it's not like, yeah, you really got to like commit to like another 3 years. There's no like real smaller pathway, I don't think, anymore, especially when you're changing industries, at least here in Australia. But I'm not sure what it's like around the world. I'm sure like freelancing would be a lot of a better option to move into. But yeah, I still regret leaving in some aspects, but I mean, I would never have been able to do it the way I wanted to at that age, or in that headspace.
Yeah, I think what you were saying is something that we actually talked a little bit about in our past episodes, about how, because there was a season where we talk about education, and we were talking about how we think there are things that we should learn before we make these choices. We should be able to at least like explore what we're choosing, because honestly most of the time we're making these choices, like say you decide to study marketing when you're 18, but you don't really know what marketing is.
No.
Like when you get into it, and you were thinking like, oh no, I don't like it. I actually, maybe you want to be a journalist or something like that. Like, what do you have to say about it? How do you think we can change this?
I mean, the whole culture of like, you got to move really quickly through all of this. Should be like, it should be slowed down like 100%. There's got to be some. It's got to be like more normalized to wait, normalized to like spend a year doing nothing, or spend a year working and like going through all the grunt work of, you know, being a teenager, because you don't get that at high school. Like, it's a whole different experience. And I mean, I went to an all-girls Catholic high school. Like, it was a bubble. You live in that bubble. You only know what people around you are like. You've got no like worldly experience. So when I left high school and I started like working, you know, I worked in hospitality, I worked in pharmacy. I spoke to just sort of all different types of people, and they're the types of opinions that you sort of need when you're growing up, or in that interim period. Because like, yeah, there was some like older people at the pharmacy I used to serve, and they would be like, why do you want to go into marketing now? And like, it didn't make any sense to them for me to have waited and gone into a career, or it didn't make sense that I left a career without you know, giving it the 3 years. It was that old mentality of, you're stuck with it. You got to finish it. Like, you're wasting your time. And like now, I'm 23 now, and everyone around me is like getting engaged and having babies, and I'm like, I am not gonna do that right now. Like, there's so much time, and everyone feels like they need to rush everything in these next few years. Like, being 18 is supposed to be the best time of your life, and I feel like everyone around, like, you know that you want that time to explore as a teenager, but because of everybody else around you telling you, like what college are you going to go to? Like, what career do you want to do? Like, where do you want to see yourself in 10 years? I think that question is it hinders a lot of people's growth. Because, like, I don't want to think that far ahead. I don't even know what I want to eat for breakfast tomorrow morning. Like, don't make me think so far ahead. So I think, yeah, culturally, we can all move away from that mentality and give people more room to explore. Maybe gap year doesn't need to be like structured as a gap year. Give them the opportunity to enroll into a university when they're 21 and make it easier. Like, no one, I mean, do you have like an ATAR equivalent where you guys are from? Like, when you finish high school, what do you get? Like a diploma or a score?
Yeah, I think we get a diploma.
When you like finish high school, I mean, in Australia we have an ATAR, and that number is like how you decide where you're going to go to college. Like, we apply for everything, but that number is what gives us the opportunity to get into places. It's sort of like the benchmark.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were in high school, it was all like we are searching for that number, like whatever number we needed to get into a course. That was it. That was all we were thinking about. So I think maybe taking a little bit more of that American idea where you're just applying everywhere and that's normal. Yeah, I mean, it's all going to take a lot of time, but it's also, yeah, just people's attitudes may need to adjust to the times we're in now.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's that a lot of people, like, we're all trying to take more time to figure out what we want to do, right? But then there are always like other people who kind of already have their way kind of figured out, and they're already doing things like really fast, and you're kind of like pressured to follow their footsteps. But everyone's in their own time zones, and I don't think that should make us like choose things at a certain time. We should like do it on our own time. Yeah.
And I also think that, in high school, you're pressured to do a lot of things that you not necessarily is for your age. So you're doing these things that, seems incredible on paper, but in reality, if you want to do something good, for example, say you write a book when you're 17. For the average people, writing a book at 17, like, that book is not going to be good because you don't have a thing to say. And I feel like that's what we're kind of seeing right now. It's like people are forcing you to say something when you don't actually have something to say.
Yeah.
And so you're just blurting out some things that, doesn't really make sense and doesn't have any value, but, people are still forcing you to say something.
Yeah, and you don't believe it, really.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the truth is that you need to be at a certain age. Say you need to like live another 10 years to produce something that's like valuable, or that holds certain meaning, or stuff like that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, exactly. Like, you can't be 17 and have like something to say. I mean, there are some kids now, like you see like the Greta Thunbergs, like she's very young and she's also got this huge influence in like the climate change conversation, but they're like one in a million. Those kids don't come around, and that shouldn't be the normal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those kids are unicorns or snowflakes, whatever we call really interesting, unique people these days. Yeah, like, that's not normal. Like, and everyone sort of pushed her as well to be that voice of reason and voice of change. And, she could wholeheartedly believe that and wholeheartedly know what she wants to say. But that's one kid in, millions. And millions of other kids her age have no idea. They just want to go on TikTok. They want to learn about things. They want to do kid stuff. And yeah, we don't need to grow up that quickly. Be 12, be 18, be 24, be whatever. Yeah. And if they've got something valuable to say, they'll know when they need to say it. And they'll feel like it's valuable. So they don't need to be forced to say something if they don't really care about it.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. I know that you sort of said like you don't like planning out your future, but our next question says, what are your plans for the future? Like,
Well, yeah, I do. I like planning, I guess, big picture stuff. I feel like
uh-huh, uh-huh.
when I got out of high school, I knew like what my 5 year plan was going to be when I graduated. And then, you know, life happens and things happen. And then it didn't align with my 5 year plan. And then I went absolutely anxious as hell. And like I burnt out just by trying to keep up with my own envisionment of what I wanted. So yeah, I think I maybe overprepared when I was younger, but now that I guess I have a little bit more headspace and I've had a lot of time to time my life out, planning is super important. But it doesn't need to be like set in stone. So I really want to, write. I'm very much like, I want to write, a book about a particular day in somebody's life. I had this idea of writing, picking a date of the year and going around different suburbs, different areas, and interviewing people and being like, what do you remember about this date? And seeing sort of how other people experience the same 24 hours in just different climates and in different ways. So that's something I'm very, I'm moving forward with that project a lot. And I really want to leave the corporate world that I'm in. Um, I think I'm not fit for all of that. So it's not the quicker that I get out, the better. But I think once I hit a point where I've had enough, I think I will feel more comfortable leaving. And yeah, this whole like freelance lifestyle and just taking jobs as they come and this sort of creative content world that we're all living in. Um, when I probably get the chance to do more of that, it could most possibly be like my full time job. But I definitely, once that all settles, yeah, next 5 years, hopefully a book, hopefully, leaving corporate and hopefully being on a plane more often. I haven't been on a plane in like, let's say 3 years, and I feel like it's way too long.
Yeah, that's pandemic, right? Yeah. I think your idea for the book is really interesting. I don't think I've read anything similar to that. I like it.
Yeah, I got sort of the inspiration. There was a really big, like Humans of New York. I don't know if you'd seen that book. It was like a coffee table book, but it was all about different personalities of people in New York. And that was like a huge cultural thing for a minute. But the stories that came out of that were like super inspiring, and it's all really short. Like you don't have to go so deep into someone's life to, get something out of their story. Yeah, so it's just those like little conversations with people that you wouldn't normally have unless you force yourself to do it. But just in like those bite sizes are manageable for people to grasp, understand, and then put it away. So yeah, that's probably where the idea came from. So
So do you have any other future projects that you're working on the side other than, the ones that you told us about?
I feel like I just want to do more of these interviews with other podcasts. I think just making sure that, the podcast world is huge and there are so many different shows that talk about just all this random stuff. And yeah, I think just hoping that I can get more into the community and I have these conversations like I'm having with you guys, just with all different types of podcasts. And it's really great to be able to do. And especially now that like all of these international, like we can actually talk to each other like without really a problem over the internet now. It's not as big a deal as it used to be in terms of actually facilitating it. So now that it's very normal now and it's super available, all this stuff can be done so easily. So yeah, that's something I definitely want to do more of these types of conversations with other creatives. Let's use that word.
As we've come to an end to our interview, do you have anything you want to share with our audience here?
I absolutely love what you guys do. I've listened to a fair few of your episodes, and I think that you guys have so much to say. And it's I love having like two co-hosts, run the show here. So I think that your audience is very lucky to have such bright minds going into the world. I can't wait to see what you guys do when you reach college in America. And if you're ever in Sydney, Australia, come visit, because we may be expensive to live here, but to travel, it might be okay now.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for coming on to our podcast. It means a lot, and it's great having you here.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Thank you so much. This was such a great opportunity, and you guys are awesome. So I can't wait to hear what else you guys get up to.
Thank you for listening to this episode.
We will upload a new episode every Thursday.
Remember to like, follow, and share our podcasts with your friends and family. You could also share your idea and thoughts with us on our Instagram at teenup.podcast.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our channel. Thank you and bye.